Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging with me on this Monday. And if you've taken some time out of your day to support the channel, I really do appreciate that. All right, so my places that I'm gonna look in August really fit into what I like to do. I like to fish shallow, and that 4 to 10 foot range is really a great depth range as we get a little bit later into the year. Fishing pressure, the lake may be turning over, so those oxygen levels are only going to be good in a certain depth range, and that is typically the shallower depth ranges. So your fish that are out are going to start transitioning back shallow. So that's typically where I like to look. I like to look at any of those entrances from the main river channels to the creeks. Right there is going to be a great place where fish are going to get. Now, they're not always going to be right on the bottom. So this is where a crankbait really shines for me in the month of August. It can be a 10XD, it can be a square bill, and everything in between, but fishing those ditches that run from the main lake into the creeks are very good this time of year because fish aren't easy to catch in there. They're not your typical bass that you can throw at that are on the bottom. They are more so just in those areas chasing bait. So there's a big population of fish that is going to move from your main river channel into the mouths of the creek. So you find those windy creek channels near your main river, those are great places to go through a 10XD. And then you can follow those fish back. So the further you follow them back, depending on what your lake is like, then you can catch them on a square bill. You can catch them on a DT6, your medium diving crankbait. So that is a place that I really like to look. You know, those are the places that are major highways, and fish are going to be using those to get back shallow. Now, your other options are to cover a lot of water shallow. A buzz bait is my favorite bait to do this. So get on the trolling motor, put it on 50 to 100%, and start burning down the bank. And what you will find with a buzz bait covering water is you're going to find shell beds that are too shallow to graph with side imaging. You're going to find springs, which are non-pressured fish that have found refuge in a little bit cooler water. So a lot of times you're not going to know what you find, but you're going to find piles of fish that are in 2 to 5 feet of water that you really can't find with your electronics. Now, if you have no grass, maybe it's just shell, I really like a square bill in those situations. Your bigger square bills, grinding them on the bottom, but covering water with those baits and fishing shelly type bars near your main lake is really good the month of August. Now, again, that is fish that are transitioning from your deeper water to your shallow water because they don't really have any other option. The lakes are turning over and they've got to get shallow. Now, your other option, which this is completely different than the first two options I've given you that I really like to look for, is the backs of the creeks. Now, if you've had a little bit of rain, not too much because you don't want the backs of the creeks to be muddied up, but if you have a little bit steeper lakes, you're going to find some cooler water running in there. And these places, I really like to power fish. So go as far back in the extremes of your creek and keep an eye on the temperature gauge because you're going to find that maybe just 3 to 5 degrees different than your main lake. But as we get into 90-degree water territory this time of year, if you can find some 85, it'll make all the difference in the world. So I like to get back there, and I don't just like to finesse fish. I think those fish back there, they're not pressured as much. They kind of monitor themselves on fishing pressure and stuff like that. So I really like to go back there and power fish because my ideal situation, if I do get on a pattern that's in the back of a creek, I'll run back there and fish for a couple hours, and then I will run out of that creek and go to the next one. I'm not going to go back there and try to just, you know, pick everyone off. I'm going to go back there, fish power baits, move quick, buzz baits, frogs, stuff like that, swim jigs. And when they choose to bite, if you are throwing those baits, fishing fast, you cater to the bigger fish, and you're going to cover enough water to really have a good day. And then if the bite slows down or whatever happens, then you just go to another one. Typically, if you find one good creek on your lake, there's going to be multiple good creeks. You know, if that water temperature is 5 degrees difference, let's say, a lot of those creeks are going to be firing. The only problem you will run into is those areas are not as conducive to fishing pressure. So for another reason there why I don't pick up my wacky rig and go around and try to finesse fish, I think it's either going to have fish that are biting and you can catch them on a buzzbait, a frog, and a swim jig, and a square bill, or they've totally shut down and you can't catch anything on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. So I go very aggressive techniques that are going to get their attention and are going to cater to big fish. I'm not worried about getting bites. If I'm not getting bites, I'm leaving. I'm not trying to figure out other ways to catch them. So very important, I think, when you get into the backs of those creeks to fish aggressively. But that's what I'm looking for in the month of August. You still have big fish biting, and you can still do really well this time of year. So try that, guys. Good luck to you, and I'll see you on the water.